And just a reminder, if you're on the call tonight, if you'd be kind enough to just type in that you're here. If you have a question, that's great. Ask the question. If you don't have a question, just type in your name so that I know you're online. And that will allow us to just kind of track who's on, what teams are on, and so on. Okay, Bill's asking if, as you get more experience, you increase the Precious 5 to 8 or 10 or more. Related, again, to the amount of time you're putting into your business, sure, the answer could be absolutely. If you are following the roadmap precisely as it is written in the book, I would say Precious 5 is perfect. If you're doubling that, then absolutely you could do multiples of the 5. And yes, if you are extremely experienced and you have a larger amount of time per day, then yes, you could expand it. But generally speaking, people are doing this from a part-time basis, and they are fitting it in. So if you do the 5, you're going to really like the results that you're getting. Catherine asked, let me just read this. Okay, specific to having some product samples. One of the things that many people are doing locally with samples is they are bringing people into their home for presentation. So you can take a bar, for example, and cut it up into many pieces and allow them to have a taste. You don't necessarily need a whole bar. Make one shake up and share them in little Dixie cups just for a taste. That's a great way. I love the skincare samples because they're small and they're personalized, but having a spa party, for example, is a great way to bring people in and sample the product, and you're actually able to use your large size personal products. So I think that's probably a great way to do cost-saving kind of sampling. If you are more open and you have a budget for sampling, then yes, buying the bars, the shakes, the Santé samples, and so on, and actually having a budget for that and then being prepared to give those out. You're going to write them off, so that's going to be to your advantage as well. And that is true motivation for following up. I would suggest to you that samples are one of the best ways to prospect, but you must follow up. If you don't follow up, it's just costing you money. If you follow up, it's an investment worth the effort. Teresa asks what type of samples can be given out. So I've given you some ideas right there. Different ways to sample and some of the items to sample. The supplements are harder to sample, obviously, but if you are going to use the health packs for samples, make sure you print off from the website there's a template that's made with sort of 4 parts to it. You can print it off and cut it into 4, and it gives you the ingredients that is in the health pack. So that way a person knows what it is they're taking. Very important. Catherine asked, okay, I'm not 100% sure of the question. She's asking how to amass substantial product samples. I think I may have answered that in the previous question. It's a matter of, again, having the budget to do it and setting it aside. And I think it's very worthwhile if you're following up. And if you're building a business, you must follow up. One of the most important things you can do. Patty and Peter are asking if I can just talk about the hot point presentation again. Absolutely. Hot points are one of those fun things. You know how we all would like to be more interested in other people, have the time to just visit with somebody and really listen to them? That's your chance. That's what a hot point is. So whether you're at a social engagement, whether you're at a sporting event, whether you're out for a walk with a friend or out for a tea with a friend or whatever it might be, a hot point is where your purpose is to get to know that individual better. It might be a 15, 20-minute experience, and you're focusing all of your attention on them. And, in the book, I recommend using form, speaking to them about their family, talking to them about their job, occupation. So family, F, O, occupation, R, recreation. What do they like to do? What have they been doing lately? Are they traveling? Do they still have their boat? Are they still playing baseball? Those kinds of conversations bring up responses. No, I don't play baseball anymore. I've got a really bad knee. It aches all the time, so I really haven't been playing ball. Or, how's my job? Well, actually, we're a little worried right now. There's talk of layoff. Or I just got a promotion. But you see, by asking those kind of questions, you get information that will allow you then to follow up or invite them to a meeting or ask them to take a look at something. You don't have to do it during during the hot point. You're doing it possibly later, but you're getting information. And in some cases, you might find out they're going through a divorce, they just got married, or they just had a baby and a new job, and their life is just, everything's rosy or really, too full right now. You would realize that this might not be the best time to talk to them about something, but you still want to stay engaged with them as humans, in relationship with them. So that's the purpose of a hot point. And again, if you do 2 of those a week, you're going to learn about people, you're going to build friendships and relationships. You could re-engage yourself with some old contacts, old friendships that you don't just want to jump in right away with business, so that's not a bad thing to do. But it's a great way to stay in a relationship. And from that, you'll be adding people to your list. From that, you'll be able to then invite them specific to their needs. If my friend told me he had a cranky knee and he hasn't been able to play baseball, a couple days later I would call him and say, Ed, when you and I were talking the other day, you mentioned that you can't play ball anymore because of your cranky knee. And I was just thinking, I know how much you love ball. And I don't know that I can promise this, but what if you could play again? Or what if your knee didn't hurt so much? Well, that'd be great, he would say. Say, well, I didn't mention it then, but I was thinking I probably should tell you about something that I'm doing, some products that could make a big difference for you. So can we get together again for a coffee and I'll show you what I'm talking about? But you can see how having a specific will allow you to do the invitation a lot easier, and you know what's important to them, so you can use that as part of your conversation as well. And it just makes it more personal. Karen's just confirming that, yes, it should be a 4-part notebook. So if any of you have not gone out and bought your 3-part, please buy a 4-part. Make sure then that you've got space for your precious 5, your goal, your list, and your why. And PK. In Singapore, well, it's nice to have you. Just let me read here. She's asking if I give things like the essentials out for samples. I really don't. There's not really an easy way to sample out the essentials. I would prefer to present to an individual that they actually get started on the product, that get their heads wrapped around that it takes time for the products to really work. We didn't lose our health, or we didn't get the condition that we have overnight, and it doesn't go away overnight. So it's a really good idea to allow the product the opportunity to bring back some of that immune system and help their health in any way possible, and to become a preferred customer or an associate. Commit to the product for a minimum of 3 months and to see the kind of results that they get. So I don't tend to give the essentials out. Can't say that it's never happened, but we haven't given a box of essentials to a friend or a family member and waited the month out to see how they did. But it's not my favorite thing to do, and I can't say that it's really created great results, because sometimes a gift of that size seems a little too much, and they don't know what to do with it. So a health pack or a couple of days of health packs is reasonable, and all the other samples that we talked about earlier work really well. And Rachel's asking about suggestions about advertising and health, advertising about, I'm going to read that again. Do you have any suggestions about advertising health and freedom presentations? I'm a believer in purposeful invitation. So it's not that, you know, putting a poster up at the gym or at the hotel or the community center couldn't work. It may. But on the possibility factor, it's much less likely to happen that somebody's just going to phone you out of the blue and say, yes, I'm interested in a health and freedom presentation. I find it more productive if I ask on purpose, inviting individuals to come. Will I hear more no's? Yes, I will hear more no's, but I also will hear more yeses if I'm asking on purpose, intentionally, people that I know. So, you know, to advertise, I'm not saying not to, but what could you do? Well, you could make a poster and give the benefits of a presentation and then maybe have, you know, the little tear-off tags to call you and that they want to come. You could probably advertise a generic presentation. If you're not gold or above, you can't use the word USANA in your advertisement. So you would have to be generic in your advertising. You can, of course, you know, do it on Facebook and so on, but again, there's in the bullseye, you can picture a bullseye, right? If you think of a bullseye and with all the rings around it, the center, the bullseye itself, is where you're contacting your own personal contacts and inviting them and presenting to them and following up with them. And that's where you're going to get your highest results. The next layer is where you have referrals. Referrals are the people that you know. And that's where you'll get your second best results. The third ring is where you're communicating with the people in a common interest. So let's say something related to health, fitness, wellness, financial freedom. If you're into communicating about children's health, then it'll be about children, seniors' health, seniors, but somebody that has common interest to you. That's that next ring, and that's where you'll get your next level of benefit or success from. And as you get out into that outer ring where you don't know one another, you don't have a common interest, you have no rapport yet, that outer ring is kind of a little more hit and miss. In fact, it's a lot more hit and miss. You kind of think of it as putting business cards under windshield wipers. You know, you spend a lot of business cards under those windshield wipers, but most of them end up on the ground. Why is that? Because they don't know who you are, and they don't know what this is about. But if you go all the way back into the middle, and you call your friend Mike and invite him to the meeting, he knows who you are. You tell him what it's about. He'll say yes or he'll say no, but it's very specific. And like I said, you might hear more no's, but you'll hear more yeses. And that's just simply because you're putting your attention into a more purposeful activity. Kathy's asking if you can use the USANA flyers publicly. Yes, absolutely. No matter what level you are, you print them off. On there it says independent distributor, and yes, you can use those flyers, most certainly. You're very welcome, PK. Someone's asking, someone doesn't want to tell me who they are, but incoming. And please do put your name, because if you put your name, again, I know you're here, and it's better all around. But anyway, how to bridge cultures you're not familiar with. The way you would want to be bridged, I think. I mean, you start by building a relationship, being interested in them. I think that's the most important thing. One of the biggest mistakes any of us can make is just jumping in with both feet without really showing any interest in the other person. And that's true whether they're your best friend, or whether they're a stranger, or whether they're of the same culture as you, or they're of a different culture. Do we really care about them? The old saying, right? No one,